Shalom, shalom, Israel. Welcome back to another edition of Stick to the Script. My name is SHAMAR, and to my left,
Shalam.
Today, the title of this lesson is called A Moment of Weakness, Not a Life of Failure. And the reason for this is being, I feel like a lot of times we come into this truth, we expect perfection, right? We expect perfection from ourselves, we expect it from other people. We find that other people let us down, but we still have this huge expectation for ourselves. And I've seen recently something that I struggle with, something I see so many people around me struggle with. We have so much compassion, so much understanding, so much love for each other, which is beautiful and necessary, but we oftentimes don't give ourselves that same mercy or compassion or space to be able to keep going. And that doubt, like I said, I've said before, if it only takes a mustard seed of faith to be able to move a mountain, how much doubt do you think it takes to be able to do the opposite?
Right.
So I really hope that this message is like inspirational, that it paints the scriptures in another light, that it gives some understanding and edification, and that it encourages someone who might be struggling to not give up on their walk. Let's start off with 1 Kings chapter 19. 1 Kings chapter 19. We're going to read verse 13 and 14, and then we're going to drop down to 18.
1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 14. And he said, I have... That's right.
Hold on 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Con, go ahead.
1 Kings 19 and verse 14. And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away.
So I think about this because it was like, man, he was living in a time where we were in captivity. They were killing prophets. They were, persecuting the righteous. And he was like, man, look at what they're doing. They're destroying every bit of the Most High. He was speaking to the Most High, like they're destroying every bit of resemblance of you that we even have left, those that are truly seeking. He was like, they're destroying it. He said, they killed pretty much everybody else, and I'm the only one left. Drop down to verse 18.
Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which had not kissed him.
And the Most High was like, look, you're not alone. It's 7,000 other knees that have not bowed. You might be the only one that sees what you're going through. You might be the only one that sees what you're doing, but there are 7,000 others. So sometimes, tough times or times get tough. We don't always see the way that the Most High is working. We might feel alone, but we're not alone, and the Most High is working things out that we may not understand, or it may not be time for us to understand. I see a lot of times where the scriptures talk about having faith. It's impossible to please the Most High without faith. Faith is what does it say? The matter of fact, let's go there real quick because I'm not about to misquote it. Hebrews. Hebrews 11, 11 and 1.
This is Hebrews 11 and 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen.
So it's the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. So, think about how much faith, and the scriptures talk about it heavily right after this. Those righteous men that were faithful, that, who is it? Abraham and Isaac, they go into the top of the mountain. He sacrifice your son. Where's the lamb, Father? The Most High is going to provide it. He was willing to give all. He had the faith to be able to give what he understood to give. But also when Abraham was told to leave his land, to go be somewhere else, and the Most High was like, just go. It's all going to make sense in a minute. Just go. Make sure that you do this. The next scripture, we're going to go to 1 Samuel. So, we might not always have the understanding, but we have to use our forefathers and the scriptures as an example of a lot of people have been asked to do things that they didn't understand. A lot of people got put in predicaments that they weren't fully comfortable with. 1 Samuel chapter 16, starting at verse 6. I don't remember his exact name, but his was a vow as well, though. So it's like they're a lot of these a lot of our forefathers have been put in that predicament, but then look at how much we to this day have benefited from it. Imagine if Abraham was too afraid to go to that land. Man, I'm old. I got my family here.
Right.
I'd rather why can't I just serve you here? I'm comfortable.
Jeez.
Most High might have been like, oh, I made a mistake. I'm done. Imagine had Moses not been like, Father, don't destroy him.
Man.
It's a lot of times that like that faith has to be exercised, or the predicament or the circumstances feels unbelievable, but you have to keep pushing. 1 Samuel 16, let's start at verse 6.
This is 1 Samuel 16 and verse 6. And it came to pass when they were come that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him.
So this is when Samuel the prophet was going to King David's father's house, Jesse, and he was told that he would be picking the king of Israel that day, right? So while he sees the first sons, he's seeing the sons of Jesse, right? He's going down the line. He shows him all his sons, and he said, oh, this got to be the guy. Look at him. He looks like the people's champion. He probably had the strong jaw, big and rocked up. He's like, this got to be him. Go ahead.
But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, nor on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth.
The Most High was saying, look, we always try to figure things out the way that we can understand it.
Right.
Who better? He tall, he's strong, he looks like a leader. Who better? Most High was like, I've already refused him. I'm not looking at this the way that you're looking at this. I'm not looking at his height. I'm not looking at his stature. I'm not looking at beauty. I'm not looking at financial wealth. Most High can take nobody and make him somebody in all those aspects.
That's right.
The Most High, he's always been dealing with the overlooked, the counted out, the underdogs. Said, you know what? He even told Gideon with the 300, he said, you know what? You got 10,000. You need to send a lot of them home, or y'all going to think this multitude is what did it. He sent 9,700 men home. And then when it came to the battle, they wasn't passing out sword and shields or like, oh, man, we got this brand new 500 BC catapult, man. This just came out this year. He was like, nah, everybody grab a pot and a trumpet. They had to have been like, who? What? You want us to, we go into battle. You're like, yeah, look, the Most High already put it in our hands.
God.
The Most High has always been dealing with us like that because it always puts us in a faithful mindset.
Right.
You have to have faith. All these situations we end up in, you have to have faith. And it's always a choice. You either choose faith or you choose fear.
God.
And that's ultimately the battle that we're constantly facing, whether we're making choices out of faith or whether we're making choices out of fear. And you see that many people do lose to their fear.
Yeah.
Many people do get overcome by the doubts, by the insecurities, by the pressures of things, the cares of the world, whatever the scriptures call it, or whatever instances that it's mentioned, it ultimately becomes a fear. The young man that came to Christ and he said, good master, what good thing do I have to do to get eternal life? All right, keep the commandments. I've been doing that. What else? Sell everything you got. He was afraid to lose what he had. That was fear. Fear is always present in some way, shape, or fashion. But that's why the scriptures say the Most High has not given us the spirit of fear. He gave us faith. That's what causes you to have trust in a situation. That's what causes you to push through. That's what causes you to say, hey, a lot of people might not understand this, but I'm going to have faith in this. Noah, when he built the ark, how many people do you think understood what he was building? Abraham, when he left, I'm pretty sure Abraham had next door neighbors that loved him, that knew him. Abraham, hey, you packing up, you moving? Yeah, where are you going? Land of Canaan. Way out there? You 80 years old.
Right.
You waited to get 80 to decide to move? Like, you already in your forever home stage. You're supposed to be preparing your kids to take over. You want to, yeah, the Most High told me to do this. Or I've been shown this. I've been given this this reassurance. I have this faith. Whatever the case may be. So the Most High is not seeing as man sees, to where he is going to be looking at countenance or outward appearance. Let's drop down to verse 11.
Verse 11, and Samuel said unto Jesse, here are all thy children.
Read that again.
Here are all thy children.
He said, are here all thy children? So Jesse brings out all his sons. And each one of them, the Most High is speaking to Samuel. Not him, not him, not him. Nope, nope. So he like, Well, we went through everybody. So he's asking Jesse, he's like, is this all your kids? Go ahead.
And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down until he come hither.
I always like to break down the details of a situation of a story, right? I really think about the fact that King David was so overlooked, his dad didn't even bring him. Samuel said, hey, look, he's a known prophet of the Lord. He's been prophesying. He's known in the land. He shows up to Jesse's house. Jesse's like, oh, man, what do we do to deserve this honor? The Most High is going to pick a king out of your sons. Real? Oh, man, it's got to be Abinadab. It's got to be SHAMAR. It's got to be one of these champion-looking sons. He didn't even bring David up. Samuel had to ask, is this all the sons that you have? There's got to be somebody else. He said, there's David. Hey, go get him. Where is he? Go ahead.
And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal, of a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look at, to look to, Slakia. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he.
This was the one that wasn't even counted. All the other ones probably looked all extra tough, grizzled beards, just David, they was like, him? Right. Look how the scriptures describe him, ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance. You know, what they would call a pretty boy. They're like, man, he's not about to put in work. Look at him. So that's how viewing things from a physical appearance can work negatively both ways. You could think somebody is so beautiful or you know, that they have so many of these qualities physically, but then they might have not the same reflection with their spirit. And then you could sit up here and underestimate somebody based off of their physical appearance, and they are a beast in the spirit. Look at, like, out of all his brothers, I don't really see them get mentioned much after this point in the scriptures, but we hear so much about David.
Right.
So one of the things, like, you know, have courage if you're someone that's counted out, someone that's overlooked, somebody that may not, you know, you picked last on the team. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. The Most High already said it. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 11. I wanted to paint that picture because I wanted to highlight 2 Samuel chapter 11. We're going to start at verse 2. I wanted to highlight the fact that, like, he was overlooked, but also the Most High knew who he was. The Most High knew his spirit and he knew his heart. The Most High knew who he was picking. But now, while David was counted out and overlooked, he does end up making a mistake. And you don't think that, like, that moment probably flashed in his mind? He wasn't picked anyway. Maybe I really shouldn't be here. I had all those brothers. Dad didn't even bring me out. He brought out Shammah and Abinadab, and he brought out all my other brothers. He didn't even, I'm sure it weighed on him to a certain extent, especially as he started to make mistakes. Let's start at verse 2.
This is 2 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 2. And it came to pass in the evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house.
Hold on real quick. So this is another thing, like the details of what we're reading. It's evening tide. It's nighttime. David rose off of his bed. I always think, like, did he have a nightmare? We already know Michal was a headache, right? She was so bad. Her father, King Saul, knew that she was so bad. He said, I'm going to give you to David because you're going to be a stumbling block. I mean, man, as a father, to know your daughter is so bad, you know she ain't going to be a help. You know, she was so bad, he weaponized her. He was like, look, you so terrible, any man that gets you, you're going to slow him down. So I might as well give you to my enemy because I need you to do some damage. I think about all those things when I read about him getting up in the middle of the night. I do remember, you know, he is a man of war. Did he have a nightmare? Is he jumping out of sleep? These are real things that, like, people with trauma deal with, right? So I try to think about why he was even in this situation. What stresses was he under? What pressure was he under? He also is king. Up until this point, I don't read about King David being a king. It wasn't like he was raised up, like being trained and groomed up. He got chosen. So all of these things, the responsibilities, the pressures, the standards, the eyes on him, the expectations, all of these things are new on him, and all of these things are something he's trying his best to be able to stand firm in and execute. But there are times where he's rising out of sleep in the middle of the night that nobody may know about. So he goes out onto the king's roof. Go ahead.
And from the roof, he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon.
Uh-huh.
And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?
Uh-huh.
And David sent messengers and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her.
So keep in mind, right? Verse 3. Situation. People went to her house. They like, this is Bathsheba. It's Uriah the Hittite's wife. That gets said to him, right? He knows. The servants who went to go ask about her in the middle of the night, I'm sure they knew. Then he like sent for her. I'm sure, like, I just think about every moment of that night from multiple perspectives. The guards that were walking to her house. It might have been two of them. They like, are we doing this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, Shalom, brother, what's going on? Oh, the
King wants to see you.
king, you know what I'm saying? Like,
God.
King want to see you. Okay. And then she went. I just think about all, like, just the in-between of what happened to have gotten to that point. But read on.
And he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house.
Uh-huh.
And the woman conceived and sent and took David and said, I am with child.
And she gets pregnant. So it's not just that they lied together and it was like a quiet. She got pregnant from it. Let's read on.
And David sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, Go down to thy house and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and therefore followed him a mess of meat from the king.
So David calls Uriah back. Now, keep in mind, before I get to any of these details or like any of the things that I came to understand or to think about, by no means is this me attempting to be disrespectful to King David, to Yahushua, to anybody lineage. The Psalms and the scriptures tell you that he's a priest after the order of Melchizedek, and the Most High said, I'm not going back. So what I'm trying to do with these words is to paint perspective, not to critique. I want that to be understood. So King David knows that she's pregnant. He already knows she was someone's wife. He laid with her. Now he knows she's pregnant. And then he calls in Uriah, her husband. He calls him back from battle. He's a soldier risking his life for Israel. Called him back from battle. And he was like, man, you've been out there, the battle going good. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Wash your feet, man, go home. And he gave him a whole bunch of meat. And you'll read that he gives him a whole bunch of drink. Because what is a man's mind on? I've been at war for a long time. I haven't had much comfort. I've been around a bunch of men. I'm back home for the night. I done ate good. I done drank good. What do you think is going to be on his mind? But King David knows that she's pregnant. Right. So if this had gone right, the child would have been passed off as Uriah's. Well, remember, Uriah was home that one night. You have to understand the extent of the gravity of what's happening in this situation.
No, that's a really good point.
Go ahead.
Verse 9, But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house.
Uh-huh.
And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thine house? Mm-hmm. And Uriah said unto David, The ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go to mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife, as thou livest, and as thy soul liveth? I will not do this thing.
So look at that. Uriah was like, look, he was like, man, I've been in the trenches. My brothers are still out there on the battlefield. What do I look like going home and being comfortable knowing that my brothers can't come home? What do I look like going home to have the comfort of my wife? And there are men on that battlefield who will never even come back and see their wives. why does she get that from me and why do I get that from her?
Right.
He's like, man, my brothers are still out there. I can't go home. I can't go home till we all go home. Very honorable, very noble. Right? Go ahead.
And David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, but went not down to his house.
So again, King David's like, all right, man, don't worry about it. Just chill here for another night. He already know, man, I got to get him to go sleep with his wife so that this child can be passed off as his. He's eating with him. He's drinking with him. Keep in mind, you know, you see that stuff in the movies, right? Where everybody like, ha ha, they toast
right.
and they watch you drink.
Right.
Take a sip. Okay. You have to, like, we be like, oh my God. But you have to realize, like, this is what's happening. And like I said, this is not to be disrespectful, but it really starts to paint the picture of the extent of, like, what was happening in this situation, because it all becomes important to where you look at the rest of his walk.
That's the thing. Like, everything is in the Bible for a reason. So you have to figure out it's not just a story. Like, there's a reason behind it.
Exactly. And why all these details? It could have just said, and King David committed adultery.
Right.
It gave all of these details for us to be able to understand. It wasn't just adultery. He was there with them. I actually wrote down some of my thoughts, right? I said King David didn't just take a man's wife. He didn't just lust behind closed doors. He committed adultery. It's one thing to struggle with the thought. It's another to act on it, right? It says, and when she got pregnant, he tried to pass off the child as Uriah's. Imagine that he was going to celebrate with Uriah when he found out his wife was pregnant. My wife's pregnant. Oh, man, congratulations. Like, he didn't know that?
Right.
That's major. Probably would have been at the baby shower and everything, knowing that it was his son, watching him grow up and play from a distance. Mind you, Uriah's house was visible from the palace. That's how King David saw Bathsheba in the first place. So he would have been watching his own son from his palace, knowing this is my son.
His first son, right?
It might have been. It says, then when that didn't work, he had, that's the next part. Yeah, Khan.
I believe we were 14.
Khan.
And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah.
And this is another one, right? Keep in mind, he gave him the letter that pretty much was his own death. That letter read to put Uriah in the heat of battle. He handed it to him. Take this to your captain. Don't open it until you get there. As a good soldier, he's obeying. Go ahead.
And he wrote in the letter saying, set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die.
And he told them specifically, put him in the heat of battle and then withdraw. Leave him out there. He told them, like, kill him. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab. And there fell some of the people of the servants of David. And Uriah the Hittite died also.
And it ended up working. He died. After that, King David ends up marrying Bathsheba. He brings her into his house. The child ends up getting sick. He fasts a week for it. At the end of the week, the child dies. King David gets up and starts eating again, drinking again, like normally, not like to get drunk. And people were confused. And he was like, well, there's nothing I can do. I prayed and fasted for the child, but now that it's gone, why would I continue to pray and fast? There's nothing I can do to take that back. But he had hell. When you really start to look at these details, if this was all you knew about King David, you would be like, oh, this is a wicked man.
Right.
Surely, look at this chapter. Look at what we just read. Look at the details. He was a man of war. He didn't just send Israel. He went to risk his life with Israel. He must have had troubles through the traumas of war. You read in the scriptures like where there were times where men were fighting and one of them got their arms smote off. They was cutting limbs off. It wasn't like today where you can pop at a distance. You had to run up on somebody and you could hear it, the blood spray, the everything. It was graphic. It was serious. It was up close and personal. You probably looked into the eyes of a lot of the people that you ended up defeating in battle. You probably killed somebody that felt too young. Like, man, that dude barely had a beard. What was he doing out here? But he was an enemy. I've never met anyone that's gone to war and it's just been totally fine. It's a lot.
Right.
Look at how much he was willing to give. Look at how much he was willing to sacrifice. How many years he fought in war after war after war, going with Israel to be able to try and find, first and foremost, defend the name of the Most High, but also find redemption. So many people like to use King David's story, but so few of us are willing to give what he gave, especially in the midst of hell. And it wasn't like just because he messed up and he was going through so much depression that he was no longer a king. Oh, you know what? You messed up. You depressed. Okay, you don't have to be a king anymore.
No, you still got to lead these people and lead them in righteousness.
All of that. Judging matters.
Right.
Oh, man, my king, we don't even have corn in the land. You think he cared at that point about some corn? He like, man, my salvation is on the line. But guess what? People calling on him. So let me figure out who has corn. The amount of pressure and stress, and it's crazy. I'm going to finish up these thoughts and then get to the next scripture. It says, then when that didn't work, he had Uriah killed in battle and took his wife after. How do you think Israel was looking at him? The story was out. It's already immortalized in scriptures. To this day, we know about this story.
Right.
How much more do you think the people that looked at him, people passing by, giving him the side eye, brother hit him with a rock in the face?
The servants that went and got her in the first place?
The servants that went and got her? You know, Israel be cracking jokes about they hit your insecurity so hard.
God.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I'm saying? I was going to come through, but my wife was
Yeah, God.
You busted up pretty hard for that one. Wait a minute. You know what I'm saying, though. Does that not sound like something Israelites would say?
Definitely.
You already know how Israel is, because we be doing that to each other nowadays.
Right.
Every time whether something go good or something go bad, you know you're going to hear about it.
Oh, yeah,
Let you have an extra good day. Oh, why you smiling so hard? You be like, oh, nothing. Let you have a bad day. Look. Oh, man, Israel going to let you have it.
Yeah.
He's dealing with judgment. He's dealing with responsibility. He's dealing with the expectations. He's dealing with the war. He's probably dealing with the comments, dealing with the opinions. Then, you know, some people that was probably outright disrespectful. This the king?
Right.
You need to tell me.
Absolutely.
I know he went through hell. We know that. Matter of fact, let's I want to continue. I'm going to talk a little bit more about David, about King David. Because the thing is, like I said, look at how much he did. If you don't know about David's works, go read about him. Go read about how he was a wise man. Go read about how he led Israel in battle. He led Israel in battle so long, they finally got to a point, he was so old, he couldn't move like he used to. He was like, you know, like a Kimbo Slice kind of, like a Mike Tyson kind of. He got the build, but it's like, hey, man, you get older and slower. You know what I'm saying? They had to tell him, they had to save him from getting killed. And they was like, look, you need to go back.
Sit these up.
They said, you're going to extinguish the light from Israel.
Huh.
He fought until he got too old to fight. And then went home and was probably like, man, I can still get out there. They're like, look, man, we don't need you to be that no more. Just be the king. That's already so much that we asking of you, or that's already so much that's on your plate. We just need you to be that. You don't have to keep coming out here. How many of us, like I said, everybody wants that mercy, but we got to be willing to give that level of sacrifice. But keep in mind, for all the things that we have done or all the things that we've been forgiven for, we have to keep in mind when we feel weak or when we feel like giving up, we have to find that strength to be able to keep going, because look at how much of a debt you've been forgiven for.
Right.
I'm sure. Matter of fact, you'll read it in the scriptures. David was like, man, I want to leave. Let's go to Psalms 55. Never do we see David curse the Most High for being corrected. Never do we see him become resentful or spiteful towards the Most High because of the hell that he was put through, because he was like, I'm suffering from my own sins. You never see him, you see him right. But you don't really see him going out in public, oh, well, the Most High has done that. You see him writing, you see him singing, you see him giving songs to the musicians, you see him praising the Most High, you see him doing everything that he can and hoping for an opportunity at redemption. And really, that's the crazy part. You have to realize how much faith that takes. Most of us, we only like to be forgiven when we know we can 100% be forgiven.
Right.
If I borrowed $50 from you, and you said, well, we can't do usury because that's unlawful, but let's just say it took me 6 months to pay you back. That's a long time, right?
That would be great.
That would be unreasonable. That would be a long time, right? But let's just say, like, it took me forever. Like, that's a debt. And then eventually it becomes less about the money and more about the principle. Like, $50, 6 months. Is it that you don't care about this debt?
Right.
Is it that you don't respect me? You get what I'm saying? But if you say, and then most of the time, because of a situation like that, people will start to feel so guilty, I don't want to see you anymore.
Right.
Now, it ain't like you did something wrong,
right.
but I'm so guilty, I can't even face you. So I might get nervous around you. I might get anxiety around you because I know I owe you. I know that I've done you wrong ultimately, right?
You might start ducking my phone calls.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, it goes to all of that. But you start to feel that guilt. It starts to be overwhelming. Then you feel like you can't even face that person anymore because you realize how much you've done them wrong to the point where you end up just trying to do everything you can to avoid them. That's the reaction for most of us. When we get to a point where we feel like we've messed up so bad or done so wrong or so unforgivable, whereas the Most High has said over and over and over and over and over and over and over, the Lord forgiveth sins. The Lord is merciful. His mercies are renewed every day. He that endures unto the end, and you see so many examples of bad situations that people stuck through and still were saved. But yet we still get so overcome by our doubt, by our guilt, by our shame, that we end up running, whereas the Most High was like, yeah, I was going to put you through it, but I would have still let you stay.
Right.
You was going to have some hell. You got to be chastened. You got to learn. He said you're not going to escape for one sin. Still had a chance. And it's crazy because we say that all the time with relationships. When we talk about man and woman, a relationship only fails when someone gives up. You got people that be drug addicts. Hell, you got people who are homeless together. Man, that must be quite a love. You know that y'all not clean the way you want to be. We be, getting in showers. Baby, you missed a spot. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that ain't. I never I'm not. Wait. I'm not saying.
But
that.
No, I feel you.
I feel you. Okay, all praises. But look, it's happened, right? Foggy attitudes. This ain't the way I wanted this. This ain't the way I wanted that. And then you see homeless people. They have visible dirt, intimacy, sexual. They not brushing teeth. They kissing. They got limited food. They're sharing. They have limited blankets. They finding a way to stay warm. Go ahead.
They enduring together.
They enduring together. They like, we in this hell, but I'm by your side.
Right.
That's that homeless love. That's what, man. If you got hope and love, you better be looking for that homeless love.
Man,
I need you to love me when I'm at my worst. Don't wait till I get all muscly and buff looking and everybody want me, and then you be the one to win the prize. Now I need you to love me when I'm down and out. I'm looking busted. You gonna love me? I'm ashy. You gonna love me? I'm broke. You gonna love me? That's what we're really looking for. Yeah. That's that real love. So it's like all of these things that we endure, that we face, we have so many stipulations, and yet we don't find a way to be able to love or to be able to give that mercy, that compassion like the lowly can. And that's why the Most High said he's going to be found of the lowly, of those that don't really have it, because those are the ones that are humble. Those are the ones that have a love that funk ain't going to stop them. Must ain't going to stop them. Dirt's not going to stop them. Unfortunate circumstances is not going to stop them. And when you look at the righteous, the prophets, those that endured, that got endorsed by the Most High Yahweh Shai, they went through it. Some of them were wealthy. Some of them had good lives. Some of them had trades. They might not have been homeless. But look at how Paul talks about he got shipwrecked. Down and out. They got beaten nearly to death on multiple occasions. Down and out. But they like, I still have this love and I'm still sticking with it. That's the difference. You choose not to give up on that relationship, you'll keep seeing it. You choose to quit, or you choose to quit ahead of time, you get those results. Last thing I'll explain before I continue on, what I mean by quit ahead of time. I think that a lot of people, like if you say you got to run a marathon in 6 months, I think a lot of people, you already quit before you quit. You just haven't accepted that you've quit, right?
Right.
If you need to get up every morning for 6 months and jog, and you get up 3 days out of 6 months, you already quit. You eating junk food. You're not even trying to help yourself in some kind of way. You eating junk food. You're not running. You're not jump roping. You're not training. You're not drinking water. You're not even walking. You're doing literally nothing to gear yourself up for the marathon. But you haven't accepted the fact that you've quit, right? So when you get to that marathon and everything starts to hurt and it starts to burn, you don't have the mental tenacity, you don't have the physical endurance to endure, then you say, oh, I quit. You quit 6 months ago.
Right.
You just accepted it now.
You quit before you started.
Quit before you started. So my whole thing is, with as bad of a predicament as we can find ourselves in, or as hopeless as we feel our situations are, look at the fact that, like, the Most High has still dealt with those and given chances to those who are willing to repent and stick it out with what it is that they had. Let's be real. Sometimes we make messes for ourselves. Sometimes things are beautiful, and we take a leap of faith, and it's beautiful, right? But let's keep it real. Sometimes we take a leap of faith, and it was like, ooh. Then you got a choice to make. Is this too much, or am I going to keep going? You got to choose to keep going. Psalm 55, let's start at verse 1. We're going to read 1 through 6.
This is Psalm 55 and 1. Give ear to my prayer, O Lord, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore, pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me.
So look, he said, my heart is sore pained within me. You know, they say, I recently read that, like, we register psychological and emotional pain on the same scale that we register physical pain. So when you're in emotional pain, there is a physical reaction. It does feel like something hurts, even if it's mental. There's a connection between the mind and the body, right? He said, my heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are falling upon me. He like, man, my heart hurts and I'm scared. I'm going through it. Like, man, he been to war, right? He been to war. He put in work. There's no debating that he was a man of war, that he was brave. When all of Israel was scared, he stepped up to throw the stone at Goliath. All of Israel were scared. All these men who already were men of war, who already had experience, who had already been in the battlefield like that, who knows how many times. We attack at dawn. Your first time, you a soldier, your first time, you throwing up, you're nervous, you can't sleep. You got men that have been out there so many times, they probably slept like a brick. I don't know how he does it. I love war movies because it's always showing examples of, like, those moments you don't really get to see unless you're in that type of situation. How some fall asleep, they sleep like bricks. They be the ones putting in work. How some stay up all night, some throw up, some lose their sense of direction. Some get stunned, some lose it, and I just want to go home. You see all of it, right? King David had already been in war and was able to prove himself that he knew he was not one of those men. When it was time to go, it was time to go. They was telling, oh, Saul killed his thousands, but King David killed his 10,000s. He was putting in work. He was like, man, I'm scared. Go ahead.
Verse 5, fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me.
He said, fearfulness and trembling are come upon me. A man who could be brave in the face of death. A man who could choose time and time again to go to war. He easily, as a king, he gets scared. He get this anxiety. They like, man, he could easily be like, y'all go ahead. Y'all go to war. Defend Israel. That's right, man. He said he was going with him. He in the palace writing this down. Man, I'm scared. Imagine how much more intense it became the morning of the battle. Imagine how much more intense it became. We attack at sunrise. Oh, my God. The sun is rising. Helmets on.
Right.
Shields up. The sun is rising. It's time. And he chose to be there to seek redemption and hope and pray to the Most High that he would be accepted. Chose to be there time and time again. But read the next verse.
And I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then I would fly away. and be at rest.
He said, man, I wish I had wings. I just want to fly away from all of this. And we see so many people that do these things. We see people that turn to wine. Everybody has a comfort, right? I believe that we all have addictive personalities in one way or another. I know addiction is a strong word that makes people go, but listen, right? Everybody has something that they do, mostly consistently, to be able to cope. Some people, it's women, right? You have to do that righteously, but for some people it is women. If a man has multiple wives and that's his comfort, that's his peace, that's his comfort, that's his peace. He taking care of all of them. He doing righteously. What can you say? For some, it's food, right? They get a lot of comfort. They get the chemicals in the food that makes them feel good. For some, it's intimacy. It's sexual, right? You have a wife. You're not dealing with anything unlawful, any type of fornication. The marriage bed is undefiled. You know, it's a relief that you're looking for. I believe, who was it? Abraham, or it was Isaac that was taken into, what was it? Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Sarah. Hold on, Isaac, Rebecca, Abraham and Sarah. After Sarah died, Isaac was taken to the tent by Rebecca and comforted, right? What do you think that was doing in the tent? I'm pretty sure she wasn't like, oh my gosh, let's read these scriptures. Like, I'm pretty sure that was a part of it.
Talk to me. Tell me how you
know
feel.
What I'm saying? You know what they was doing. She was like, I know that you need this comfort right now. You need this type of comfort. I'm not naysaying or mitigating reading scriptures together. That is a beautiful form of intimacy. That is important. But there was a level of comfort that he needed that only his wife was able to supply. And after his mother's death, like, he was devastated. This is his mama. And she went in the tent and was like, I know what you need. He ended up getting married. So David, you know, and then some people, they do run. Some people are track stars. They get into a tough situation, they detach. It's easier for most people. They would rather detach from things as opposed to stick it out. Oh, this is just such a bad situation. I'll never be forgiven. I'll never be the same. I'll never move forward. I'll never be healed. I'm going to be broken forever. And they choose to either sit in that broken space or they choose to fly away. King David was saying, man, I wish I could fly away. But did he? Nope. All the years of his life, he continued in his service. All the years of his life, he continued to be king. He continued to judge. He continued to go before Israel in war. He continued to work out the problems of the nation, all while struggling and feeling this fear and this stress and this anxiety and ultimately this depression. But he kept going. Drop down to, actually, I'm sorry, I have thoughts that I'll be writing down. I said no one talks about these parts of King David, only the mercy he was given and how they want to take advantage, but they aren't willing to give what he gave. Jakes throw shots at someone doing more, but love the weak and small. For example, right? Because David wasn't perfect, right? He was perfect in the sense of his heart was after the Most High. Say, like, he has a heart after the Most High. Scriptures tell you that. He still made mistakes. But I believe he was one of the only kings that wasn't called defective. Didn't it say it was David, Josiah, and there's three of them. I can't remember who's the third. David, Josiah. I know it was the third. But it's crazy because you see so many people looking to take advantage of this type of mercy. Well, David did it, and, you know, he got this and he got that. And you see so many people that will be accepting of someone, but then when you're really trying to do right, how much love is there? When you're really trying to do right, when you're really striving to be able to be better, drop down to, drop down to verse 12, because I wasn't supposed to read that last part until I got to 12 through 16. Let's read this.
This is Psalm 55 and verse 12. For it was not an enemy that reproached me.
Hold on. He said it was not an enemy that reproached me. Read on.
Then I could have borne it.
He was like, if it was my enemies coming against me, I would get it. You get caught lacking by your enemies, you like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm no stranger to this. If I would have caught y'all in this predicament, I would have did the same thing. What you waiting for? He said, if it was an enemy that would have caught me like this, he said, I would have borne that. Go ahead.
Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him.
He was like, neither is it like somebody that's openly telling me they hate me. He said, all I would have did was avoided them. I did it with King Saul. He tried to kill me a couple times. I was like, I'm not going back to your table. Read on.
But it was thou, a man my equal, It was thou, Slaket. It was thou,
Uh-huh.
a man mine equal,
Uh-huh.
my guide and my acquaintance.
He said, my guide and my acquaintance. He was like, man, it's my own, like, it's my people. It's people that I'm loving. It's people that I'm trusting. It's people that that I'm acquainted with. He said, it ain't an enemy that's doing this. It ain't enemies that's talking about me. And that's another aspect of, like, look at how much hell he went through. Most people, they get to this point. Most people, they need to be loved by those that are around them. And there's nothing wrong with saying that there's nothing wrong with being loved and reciprocating that love. But you have to be able to detach from it if it means doing right. So when there are those who stood alone against tyranny, against oppression, against wickedness, you have to be willing to be one of the ones who stands against wickedness, even if you're standing alone. It's a hell of a responsibility. David was like, man, if it was some of my enemies that was standing against me like this, he said, I would have got it. I could have just understood that. If it was somebody that hated me, I just wouldn't have kicked it with him. I would have stayed away from him. He said, but it's my acquaintance. Read on.
14. We took sweet counsel together and walked into the house of God in company.
He said, man, we talked. We took sweet counsel together. We've been building with each other. We've been talking together. We've been like connecting. Go ahead.
Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them.
Go ahead.
As for me, I will call upon the Most High, and the Lord shall save me.
And you see two things. For one, he was like, man, we walked into the house of the Most High together. Like, how much more real could it get than that?
God.
But he said, man, let death seize them. Let them go quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings. He said, but as for me, I'm going to call upon the Most High. He's going through hell. He's stressed. He's depressed. He's going through it. He's like, my faith and my trust is still in the Most High. And he had the works to back that up. Mm-hmm. He had the legacy to back that up. He didn't just say quietly, all right, I'm not going to be king. I'm not going to be judge. I'm not going to be a man of war. I'm going to go find a little hut somewhere to hide for the rest of my days and wait for judgment. No. But I trust in the Most High, though. He kept going. I trust in the Most High. Going through hell. Friends turning on him. People mocking him. Brother threw a rock and busted him in the face. He's like, nah, you ain't got to kill him. Probably wiping blood off his eyebrow. Nah, don't worry about it. They're like, man, you the king. What you mean? You would let him throw a rock at you? Nah, I deserve that one. What? You'd be like, oh, my goodness. But the Most High requires a contrite spirit and a broken heart. King David had that all his days. And that's why I was saying with the acquaintances, he said, it was not an enemy that reproached me. That's the crazy part. Most of the time, it don't be enemies. At least they don't appear to be enemies. I can't tell you how many times I've watched someone who was striving for righteousness. I ain't going to put names out because I try not to tell bear, but I want to give this testimony, right? There was a brother who had recently went through a situation, right? He had his moment. He had his shortcomings. And as he was trying to get himself back together, rise back up, be a son of the Most High, be a servant, be righteous, the brother that was critiquing him had gone back into the world. Not a part of this body, but went into another body, still doing work somewhere. He was not doing that. Brother getting tattoos. Like, you sitting up here telling me, like, you go out into the world and tattoo Yahweh Shai on your hand, like that's supposed to be something beautiful. Yahweh Shai up the side of your neck or wherever you're going to get a tattoo, like that's supposed to be, like the Most High is supposed to be like, oh, I know he down.
Right.
Look at that tattoo I told him not to get.
Right.
I'm like, what? But he on the phone, well, what about him? I'm like, damn, when you really trying to do right, everybody hates you.
Okay.
How many righteous? Christ said a prophet is without honor except in his own country. Mm-hmm. Like, man, look at this here. Be quick to cast somebody out that's like, I'm really striving, I'm really trying to make it, I really want to be a son of the Most High, but let it be somebody wicked. Didn't they do that with Christ?
Okay.
Christ said, I'm the son of the Most High. Kill him. Barabbas, what was he, a murderer and a what else? A thief?
Right.
He killed people. How much work? Wait a minute. But who did they say release him? The son of the Most High? Nah. The one going amongst us to help people, to heal people that's been preaching the word, that's been doing nothing but trying to rebuild and heal the nation. Now, we don't want him. Let the thief and the murderer go. Everybody is just lock their doors tonight. I don't know. I can't, like, the mentality of Israel is mind-blowing. I try to make light of it, but I can't even make it funny. Like, that's mind-blowing. But that has always been the case for the righteous. How many of them were believed? How many of them were respected? How many of them were accepted? Hardly any.
Okay.
Very few. And it's crazy because it's that old saying, we're the most hated, but we love each other. That's the only time that you find love amongst those, that's the only time that you find love when you're striving for righteousness, is amongst those that are also striving. Mm-hmm. But for everybody that done gave up on themselves, they just want to see you quit too.
Yeah. Misery loves company.
Stop smiling. What you so happy for?
Right.
You be like, damn. So what? Going through it. Had a great day today.
Right.
Yep. I see the fires around me. Yep. I feel the flame. I had a great day. I was able to walk. I got my senses. I see people that have never walked a day in their lives, born disfigured and deformed. Every day I get up and walk, I'm happy. I'm not saying I don't still have weak moments. Don't take this as like I'm in, because that's the whole point of what I'm trying to highlight. We all gonna have our weak moments, but you got to keep going. I have weak moments. I have sorrowful moments. I have stressed out moments. I have moments that I'm not using the best judgment. I have those moments. But overall, I'm trying to strive. And I want to encourage everybody that's listening that I'm sure you can say the same, but continue to strive. Your legacy ain't gonna really be, you ain't gonna really know what your legacy is until you get to the end, but you got to make it to the end to be able to look back and say, okay, I did pretty good. Look at King David's situation only for the times where he made mistakes, and you might be like, oh, you count him out. But you look at his legacy overall, you say, oh, he did pretty good. He made his mistakes, but he continued on. He has an honorable legacy, one that is immortalized in the scriptures.
Cool.
Let's go over to, stay in Psalms. Let's go over to chapter 102. We're going to kind of bounce around a little bit, but we are going to read verse 3 and 4 consecutive.
This is Psalms chapter 102, 3, verse 3. For my days are consumed like smoke, and my bones are burned as in hearth. My heart is smitten and withered like grass, so that I forget to eat my bread.
He was so depressed. He was like, I can't eat. What do they call that? Stress starving. Yeah. He said, my heart is smitten and withered like grass. He was brokenhearted, so that I forgot to eat my bread. He was in such a bad space, he couldn't even eat anymore. Maximum stressed, maximum depressed. Ain't no and people notice, like, man, the king getting skinny.
Man.
He on a new diet. What you doing? Oh, I'm just eating less. You know? You know how Jakes do. We always try to play it cool. We act like it's all good. We keep the strength. We keep exhibiting as much strength as we can muster up. But the reality is, we going through hell. It's just about, sometimes when you really get strong, you understand that it's okay to not be okay, and you understand you're not going to be okay 100% of the time. I think that's what makes people freak out. They have a moment where they feel discomfort, and they say, oh, my God, I'm not okay. You're not going to be okay 100% of the time.
Right.
When the prophets was getting beat up, you don't think that they was like, I'm not okay, mink? Getting teeth knocked out or getting bruised and bloody, do you think that they felt okay? They wipe the blood off. The swelling goes away over time. Keep going. The mission don't stop.
That's right.
Sure, it was hell. Lose a lot of friends along the way. Keep going. The mission don't stop. Brokenhearted. Keep going. The mission don't stop. And this is not just a message that I'm giving to everybody else. This is a message I need for myself. I find myself be like, man, I feel so overwhelmed, or I feel so this, I feel so that. I choose to smile through it all, but I feel the same things that anybody's feeling. The scriptures tell us, I believe 1 Corinthians 13, if I'm not mistaken, verse 10, it says that like the things that we're tempted with are not beyond what man has experienced. You're depressed? Guess what? You're not the first person in the world to be depressed. And that's not me being incompassionate about your situation. I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're going through. Understand that there is a brighter day. Understand that it does get easier. Understand you do find a way to move forward. Understand you do need help and that you do find help. You got to understand those things. So in those moments where you feel so broken and you feel so empty, you feel like nothing's going to ever get better, keep going. That old saying that 1,000-mile journey starts with 2 steps. You just got to keep walking. We're always, for the most part, uncomfortable. We have a great time at the feast for a reason. That'd be your time to finally cut loose. That'd be your time to finally have a time to enjoy yourself. You working 6 days a week, trying to make ends meet and still barely rubbing together. What do they say? 2 nickels.
Yeah.
Put like Haggai says, you gathering into a bag with holes. We some of the most hardest working broke people in the world.
Man.
Be working hard, doing more than what your job you doing more than what your job description is. You're not getting paid for it. They expect you to just do all these favors. It's just supposed to be cool. You working multiple times a week, still find and then every time it's crazy because all of Israel be saying the same thing. Be like, man, right when I get some, it's like my car wait for the check engine light to come on. Right when I get some money.
Yeah.
You be like, I can't believe this. You probably it's over. Let's keep it real. You get to a point where when you get something good, you be like, what's about to happen?
Right.
Don't you get that? We all get that. You get a couple extra $100, you be like, man, something about to break.
Right.
I don't even want to go spend this money on no fun because I know something is about to break. Why do I have this extra money?
Right. I'm about to use this, need this for something.
Surely. I'm going to just wait. I'm gonna sit on this for a little bit because I'm going to just keep my vigilance to wait and see what's about to happen.
Yeah.
We all experience all of these things, from the greatest to the least. Mm-hmm. But we have to keep going.
Huh?
Drop down to verse 9.
102 and verse 9. For I have eaten ashes like bread, and mingled my drink with weeping.
He said, mingled my drink with weeping. King David going through it. Hey, take this cup of wine. Take a sip and break down.
God.
Tears falling in the glass. Just sitting there, just weeping, brokenhearted. Drop down to verse 15.
So the heathen shall fear the name of the Lord, and all the kings of the earth thy glory.
Through all of that and everything he was experiencing, he was like, I still care about the legacy and the name of the Most High, and I'm still going to make sure that I say it. He said, I'm still going to make sure I give the Most High his praises. I'm still going to make sure that I'm honoring and worshiping the Most High as I always should have. I'm still going to make sure that I'm giving this. In the midst of everything that he said up until this point. Verse 7, he said, I watch and am as a sparrow alone upon the housetop. He like, I'm by myself. Verse 8, my enemies reproach me all the day, and they that are mad against me are sworn against me. I'm surrounded by enemies. I'm by myself in all of this. He going through hell. He's already feeling it so much. He's losing weight. He can't eat. He like, I'm going to still make sure that they know the name of the Most High. That's beautiful. And you get to see the type of spirit he had, and you get to see why the Most High continued to keep dealing with him, even if we don't understand. We only understand life looking backwards. Then all the hell that you went through, when you can finally rest and say, okay, that was a pretty good legacy. Then it all makes sense.
Right.
Every regret, every decision, you realize it all led you to that moment, and you're either going to be satisfied or dissatisfied. But when it makes sense, you can look back on your life and say, okay, all of that made sense. But you can only understand life looking backwards, but you can only experience it moving forward. Every mistake, every decision, every leap of faith, everything that you do, you're always going to question or always have a certain level of fear, because you have to wait until the end to know 100% if you did the right thing and if you did enough of the right thing. Nobody has like 100% assurance like that, where we just know 100%, ain't no way I could fall. Matter of fact, most of the time, the brothers that tell themselves that be the ones to fall. The men who say that they're untouchable, How you let your guard down so much that you didn't see that? Like, that was obvious.
Right.
You can't put yourself in a position where you feel like you can't fall. You can't put yourself in a position where you feel spiritually untouchable. You need to understand that you can be touched spiritually. I'm saying this to myself as well. You can be touched. We're at war 24/7 because we're always at war in the spirit. We big, have the firearm mindset, the 2A mindset, the HTK, the hard to kill, and all. Yeah, that's a mindset to adopt. That's beautiful. But the spiritual war is so much more than the guns and the pistols. You don't hardly ever have a time to recoup or to get ready. It's constant attacks. You walking through your everyday life and a negative thought hits your brain. You like, damn. You get those random spurts of down moments. You like, damn. You under attack. You might be in a grocery store. Look, King David said he mingled his drink with weeping. He might have been handed a cup of wine. Might have even been seeing an old friend. Man, it's good to see you. I got so many people coming against me, and everybody saying what they want to say.
Right.
Clink to better days, Doc. Broke down. To better days. Broke down. Tears hitting the glass. We read verse 15. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 26. Chapter 26, let's start at verse 38.
This is Matthew 26 and verse 38. Then saith he unto them, my soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me.
So listen, this is in red writing. This is Christ, the King of Israel, right? It says that he never sinned. He had confirmation. He got baptized. The Spirit in the form of a dove opened up above him, and the voice of the Most High, this is my Son in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. This has been the man that's been prophesied since way back. Christ said, I come in the volume of the book. This is also Melchizedek, right? He's been here before. King of Salem, the King of Kings, King of Jerusalem, the chief of all the Israelites that'll be in the kingdom. He said, I'm sorrowful. People be acting like you're not supposed to go through anything in this truth. No, you're going to go through more than you've ever gone through. When you were in the world, you had no real accountability. You did somebody wrong, it was, oh, well. You stole from somebody, it was, I got to eat. Now, thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet. 6 days shall thy work be done. You have all these different standards and this law to hold you accountable from not only what you do on a day-to-day, but how you treating your people. Guess what? Everything just got that much harder. Because in a world full of people that's going to keep trying, in a world full of conniving people for the most part, shark eats shark, dog eat dog, everybody has this mentality of competition. You got to be the one with morals and standards. While everybody else going to be looking for an advantage for whatever it is, women turn to legal prostitution. I'm $40 short on my light bill. What you going to do for it? Like, it's legal. But you got a standard now. You can't move like that. Mm-hmm. Man, you hear it in the music. It be like I used to really like kind of get into it, but now I be listening. I be like,
yeah, it's tough.
And I didn't even start listening to King Von until I heard about his death, and then I started hearing. But I'm like, good Lord, the amount of stuff he would talk about, the just rambunctious wickedness, in a world full of those kind of love music ain't popping no more. Not like that. Teddy Pendergrass, Marvin Gaye, the Isley Brothers, the Delegation, all those bands, that stuff is like older. You don't even get really Tank no more. You're not even getting the Tank. You're not getting the music Soul Child. Now all you hear is drill. Gang members. I'm doing this for my gang. On the gang. You have to kill me. I'm going out blamming. I'm going out leaking. I'm cool with it. I'm going to hell, and it is what it is. It's like, but in a world full of that, you have to be the one to have the standard. You're going to feel sorrow. You're going to experience betrayal. You're going to experience heartache. You're going to go through it all because you got to be the light. Christ was sorrowful, right? He experienced what we experience. He said, even unto death. He was like, man, I'm so sad. Like, I feel like I could die. You ever been so sad you feel like you could die? You ain't bleeding. You look fine, but you feel like you gonna die. You so sad. Go ahead.
And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "Oh, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless."
Hold on. He said, "Oh my." So even Christ, and this is why the title of the lesson, a moment of weakness, not a lifetime of failure. Christ knew what he was there to do. He had already been performing his role for years. He'd been in the ministry. He had nowhere to lay his head. He was accepting of all those things. I never see him say, remove this from me up until we get to this point. But it was so overwhelming of the fact that he knew he was about to die. And it wasn't going to be a simple death. It wasn't going to be, are you the Son of the Most High? I am chop.
No.
It was slow. It was painful. It was mockery. I believe it was one of the Caesars. And who was it? Was it not Nimrod? Herod and Caesar. They were at odds, but from sending Christ back and forth, mocking him, they became friends over that.
Right.
Friendships being built out of spite for him. Do you know how that feels? People won't love out of loving you, but they'll love to hate you. He knew it was about to happen. Then he said, man, he went and prayed to the Most High. If it's possible, there's any way that this doesn't have to happen, please. You know?
Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt.
And that's the mentality that we have to take on. And if you're not there, keep working at it. We all are, even if we get to a certain point, we're all still building ourselves. We're all still praying to the Most High, trying to be built up. I don't think that you ever get to a point where you're done building. I think that you either go out with a good legacy or a bad one. Christ was like, man, nevertheless, he said, I'm not going to do my own will. I'm going to do what you've told me. I came too far to panic. I've been knowing this day would come. It's difficult. It's hard. He probably put it off from his mind plenty of times. It might have been plenty of times he was toasting up with the 12. Hell, toasting up with Judas, knowing that this was the man that was going to betray him. And instead of sitting up here smiting him, casting him out, destroying him ahead of the time, he was just going to let him do it, knowing that it was going to be a part of his testimony, betrayed by one of his closest, clacking cups with him, taking toast with him, sharing drinks with him, taking sweet counsel with him, going into the house of the Most High with him. Pretty sure it was times where he was like, man, this is tough, but he just kept going. He finally got to that moment. He said, man, if it's possible, but I'm going to still go through with it. I'm finishing the mission. Heartbroken, exceeding sorrowful, feel like I'm about to die. I'm so sad. He said, I'm going to finish the mission. Let's read on to let's read on.
Verse 40. And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep, and said unto Peter, what? Could ye now watch with me for 1 hour? Mm-hmm. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
So he was like, man, he was like, come on, y'all got to stay up with me a little bit longer than this. Like, you don't understand. The time for me to die is here. I'm pretty sure he was like, y'all can't stay up. I'm sure I don't read him sleeping that whole night. I don't read Christ sleeping. He like, man, just stay up with me. They went to sleep. They like, oh, man, my bad. Like, damn, you can't stay up a little while? Then he was like, man. He gave them some wisdom, some insight. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He like, man, y'all got to be careful that you don't enter into temptation. Read on.
He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done.
He said, man, first he said, is it possible? Then he said, I submit.
Okay.
I already been living in submission, but he was like, this is the part that maybe if there was a possibility, he said, but I'm giving in. I submit. Let your will be done. Let's go over to Luke chapter 22. So we see that even Christ, the King of Israel, the chief of us, he had weak moments. And I'm not saying weak as a disrespect. Again, I'm not meaning for any of this to be disrespectful to our forefathers, to our King, to the righteous, to whom the Most High has chosen. None of that. I'm trying to give insight with this. He had a weak moment. We be so busy on trying to be perfect and trying to be, and I'm not saying we're not supposed to be perfect. We are supposed to be perfect. We're striving for perfection. But understand, I think y'all said it in this song, when you strive hard, you're going to meet defeat. But don't give up on your run, rise to your feet. Who of us can say that we have had nary a sin since we've been in the truth? I've never felt defeated.
Right.
I'd be like, man, keep walking on. And I don't even say that mockingly or boastfully. But I understand that it's going to happen. I don't see any of the righteous who strove for righteousness and really did what was required and asked of them that did not experience what we're experiencing. And when it rains, it pours. I think, what, did it rain yesterday or last night or 2 nights ago?
2 nights ago.
The sun was shining today. Right. Luke 22, let's read 54 through 62.
This is Luke 22 and verse 54. Then took they him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house. And Peter followed afar off. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the hall and were sat down together, Peter sat down among them. But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, Woman, I know not him. And after a little while another saw him, and said, Thou art also of them. And Peter said, Man, I am not. And about the space of 1 hour after another, confidentially.
Look at the. So he's already denied Christ twice, right? But and keep in mind, Christ told him, Peter, he was like, man, you think you ready? He said, man, you gonna deny me 3 times before the cock crow. Like, man, I'm not doing that. I've been here with you all these years. Right. I'm gonna deny you at the end of this? Like, nah, man, there's no way. Verse 59.
And about the space of 1 hour after another, confidently affirming.
Confidently affirmed, go ahead.
Saying, Of a truth, this fellow was also with him, for he is a Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately, while he yet spake, the cock crew.
And I can't remember which of the Gospels it is. It's either in Matthew, Luke, or John, right? But in one of them, it says that, like, he was swearing, like, oh, God, I don't know him. Right. Like, he was swearing. And then not only once he denied, he heard the cock crow, but read verse 61.
And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter.
And Christ, as soon as he heard the cock crow, Christ looked at him. He might not have even looked at him this whole time. He's been going through what he's going through. Peter is watching from a distance everything that's happening to Christ. At which point in Christ's story, I don't know. I don't know if this was when they, if he's been beaten, if he's been whipped, he got spit on. I don't know how much of that has transpired, but he's going through these things, right? Or he's about to go through these things. And all the while, Peter had denied him these 3 times, and then Christ looks right at him. Go ahead.
And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter. And Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly.
He wept bitterly. He probably, like crying hard. First of all, I was just so confident. You told me what I was going to do, and I was telling you absolutely not, Ak. There's no way. There's no way I'm doing that. And he ended up doing it. And Yahweh looked at him like, I know. He went out and wept bitterly. But you know what I got out of that? Not only did he make mistakes or he denied Christ, and not only did he find extreme sorrow from that, but after that, what did Peter do? Peter continued in the ministry. He didn't let the shame, that's hella shameful. You would feel, and I'm not talking about he should be ashamed of himself. I'm talking about in a situation like that, you would be heartbroken. Not even because somebody did something to you, but because you know you did something to them. If you will avoid, you got something?
No, you got it.
I was gonna say, if you would avoid somebody over a couple of dollars, imagine look at how much more serious of a bond they had. Peter was ready to kill behind Christ. He like, man, if this is how it's going, this is how it's going. This is it for us.
And he believed he was Christ. So it wasn't like, his fellow man. No, this is the King of Kings.
He didn't, it wasn't like he didn't believe he was Christ.
Right.
He denied it out of fear of people and out of fear of what was going to happen next. And he knew that. I know he dealt with shame. I know he dealt with extreme pain. I know he probably cried like hard, stomach cramping, you get hungry,
Right.
snot, but like, no joke. He probably cried hard and who knows for how long.
Yeah.
But when you read about Peter hereafter, he was, I believe he became the chief of the churches. You see him continue in the ministry. That didn't take him away from the love of Christ. That didn't take him away from everything that he wanted and felt he had to do for the love of his people, for the love of the Most High, for the love and service of Christ. He continued on, even with a mistake like this, because it was a moment of weakness, but it's not a lifetime of failure. Let's go to Numbers chapter 20. Chapter 20 and start at verse 7.
This is Numbers chapter 20, verse 7. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water. And thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts to drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Most High, and as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. And he said unto them, Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also.
The crazy part about it is, if the Most High wasn't with Moses, when he smote the rock, the Most High easily could have held the water.
Right.
The Most High allowed the water to come out. He allowed the children of Israel to drink. Read on.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, Because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them.
And because of that, right? Because of the frustration that he was feeling, because everybody continuously questioned Moses. They saw him call it plagues. They saw him throw down his staff and it become a serpent. They saw him turn water into blood and then turn it back. They saw the world go dark. They saw him part the Red Sea. They saw the Most High going before them in a pillar of fire. At some point, they saw the Most High open up with that fire and speak to the congregation in thunder and lightning. How many times was Moses proven in the sight of everybody? And yet they still was complaining. They still had issues with him. They still murmured against him. And it finally got to him where he got frustrated enough to not even fully rebel, but to disobey to some degree the Most High. And the Most High was like, because of that, you're not going to bring them into the promised land. He had that moment of weakness. Now look at Moses, look at his legacy overall. He was judging matters in Israel. He was prophesying unto Israel. He was like a priest unto Israel. He was the mediator between the Most High himself
and Israel. Moses was the one to take the words that the Lord was saying and bring them back to the people. Moses was the one to spend 40 days and 40 nights in the mountain with the Most High, just being fed of the Spirit. Came out of the mountain literally glowing, had the tablets of stone. He was called the most meek man on earth. But he still had a moment of weakness. Moses literally was so trusted by the Most High that when the Most High was ready to destroy the children of Israel, he hearkened unto Moses. When Moses said, Lord, please don't do this, the heathen gonna say you wasn't able to save this people. When you look at his legacy overall, you see so much beauty. But so often we get so stuck on the mistakes, or so often we get so stuck on the moments of weakness that we have that we give up on our walk altogether. We'll find the compassion. That's why I said earlier, we'll find the compassion for so many people. Oh, yeah, we just got to pray for that brother. Pray for that sister. Yeah, we got to. But then you make a mistake and you're not willing to forgive yourself. You're not willing to move forward. And I'm not going to lie, this is a struggle for me. I be trying to, I want to get to a space where it's a little easier as well. Still giving place to that guilt and to that repentance, but being able to get out of my own head. But I'm here to encourage all of us to do the same. The fear, the shame, and the doubt is what's going to take you away. The fear, the shame, and the doubt is what's going to extinguish your spirit. It's what's literally going to spiritually kill you. It already has physical effects. You gain weight, you lose weight, hair fall out, grays. It already has physical effects, but in the spirit, it can literally kill you. It can kill you both ways, actually. The fear, the shame, and the doubt. So that's really, ultimately, it really becomes about us overcoming ourselves. We be having faith in the Most High. It's not necessarily that being the issue. Moses didn't, where was his lack of faith? Christ, with all the things that he did, the miracles that he performed, he was healing people. So much virtue, he was able to spit on a man and give him sight. Able to touch somebody, bring people back from the dead. Look at all the things, like they had faith. It's just about not letting, when you make a mistake, letting that take you away. Let's go to Jonah. We're getting close. We have enough time. I think we're gonna use the full amount of time though, for sure. Jonah chapter 1. You can start at verse 1 when you get
there. This is Jonah chapter 1 and verse 1. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the son of Amittai, saying, Arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, and went down unto it.
So keep in mind, right? I'm sorry, what verse we at?
Good. Right above 4.
Con. So the Most High told Jonah, go to Nineveh, right? That great city, and cry against it for their wickedness, right? Jonah tried to run from the Most High. Mind you, the Most High can see that Jonah's doing this. It wasn't like a drop dead kind of thing. Right. He rebelled. Snap. Oh, he was like, I'm dealing with him. You know, give him a chance. Jonah tried to go like the opposite direction. Go ahead.
So he paid a fare thereof and went down unto it, to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Most High. But the Lord sent out a great wind unto the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. Then the mariners were afraid, and cried every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship unto the sea, to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down to the side of the ship. As he lay, he was fast asleep. So the shipmaster came unto him, and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call upon thy God, if so be that God will think upon us, that we perish not. Mm-hmm. And they said every one to his fellow, Come, and let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this evil is upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah.
So they trying to figure out why this is happening. They're like, man, this is an act of God. They're like, we trying to figure it out. I don't know how you down here asleep, but we need to see who's responsible for all this turbulence. They cast lots, and it all points to Jonah. So now they're looking at him. Let's drop down to verse 10.
This is verse 10. Then were the men exceedingly afraid, and said unto him, Why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. Then said they unto him, What shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea is wrought and tempestuous. And he said unto them, Take me up and cast me forth into the sea, so shall the sea be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you.
One of the things to highlight in that verse, of course, it wasn't like he necessarily had a choice, but he really did have a choice. He could have chose to stay on the boat until the boat went down, and then the fish would have swallowed him. He was like, nah, I know this is because of me. Throw me over. I do see a lot of integrity with righteous men, even when they do make mistakes. They still try to make the best out of the situation that they're presented with. They still try to take accountability, even if they're too deep into the decision to have turned back. He's trying to be responsible. He's like, look, cast me into the sea, and this is going to stop. But read verse 13.
Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring it into the land, but they could not, for the sea.
They was like, they wasn't even trying to throw him in first.
Right.
Jonah was like, man, y'all throw me in, this is going to stop. They was trying to row hard. Nah, what? That's crazy. We going to row us back to land. And the Most High was not allowing that boat to move. Every time they was rowing hard, they could not get the boat to reshore. Go ahead.
But they could not, for the sea wrought and was tempestuous against them. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord and said, We beseech thee, O Lord, we beseech thee, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood. For thou, O Lord, hast done as it pleased thee.
So they ended up throwing him overboard, and he ends up getting caught in the fish. And it says, I just want to read Jonah 2:2. It says, and said, I cried by reason of my affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. Jonah went through it, right? 3 days and 3 nights he spent in that fish's body. Very uncomfortable. And I also think about, like, how did that look? How did, what did that feel like? Was it dry? I'm pretty sure it was an underwater creature, something big enough to hold a man in its stomach or its mouth without killing him. Something huge, probably very uncomfortable. Was it a whale? A lot of people say it's a whale. If it is a whale, they open their mouths to eat.
Yeah.
A rush of water and fish coming in, and he just has to, like, for 3 days, you have to understand the scenario that's in. Whales get water in their mouths, they spray it out when they resurface. He probably sat in water for hours at a time, salt water, for hours at a time with fish. Who knows how it smelled? Pretty sure it was pitch black.
No fresh air.
No fresh air. Outside of when the whale took a breath, but it's going to be whale, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's going to be whale breath or fish breath. Like it ain't a comfortable situation. But Jonah went through that for 3 days and 3 nights. Let's go over to chapter 3 and read verse 1 through 5.
Chapter 3 and verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto Joel the second time, saying...
I'm sorry, I just want to, verse 2 and 10, it says, And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. So after 3 days and 3 nights of being in this fish, Jonah gets spit out. Most High gives him another chance. Go ahead.
And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise and go unto Nineveh, the great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey.
Uh-huh.
And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown.
So the first thing is, Jonah went through so much hell, he was like, you want me to go? I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to be what you called me to be. But also it says that the city was so great, it was 3 days' journey. It would take 3 days to walk from one side of the city to the other side of the city. That's why it said he entered into the city a day's journey. So he's like 1/3 into the city. That's a huge city. I honestly think of this like the biblical L.A. L.A. is huge. If you've never been to California, like L.A. has more of a population than 48 states in the entire state. It's just a massive city of people and lights, projects, blocks on top of blocks of apartments and, luxury. Some of them are luxury where they're built straight up and they're nice and they're beautiful. Some take up entire city blocks to where it's just hundreds, if not thousands of people all fighting for resources, all fighting for comfort, oftentimes impoverished. It's a huge place, and it's dangerous out here. It's been a lot. How many rappers have come out to LA and died out here? Being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Something that if you're from here, you can understand or know how to navigate. But if you're not from here, you might not even know. And how many brothers have come out here and died? I think of that like I'm looking at how big Nineveh is. You don't like. My thought was, I would imagine Jonah was scared or probably thought Nineveh wouldn't hear him. You want me to go talk to Nineveh? That city's so huge, what can one man do? That city's so huge, how is this going to work? They probably ain't going to hear me in the first place. They might even kill me. How many times have prophets been warmly welcomed? I'm pretty sure it was a lot of fear, a lot of doubt running through his mind to where he was like, man, I'm going in the opposite direction. He might have even thought like, man, Nineveh is so big, it take you 3 days to walk through this city one way. You think if I go to Nineveh, they going to notice that I went missing? It's probably all type of stuff that crossed his mind, right? But read what happens when he prophesies.
So the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them.
They chose to repent. For all the fear that he might have had, for all the doubt that he might have had, it was a fairly straightforward journey. Sometimes we take ourselves out of the fight before we get to the fight. We already quit on ourselves before we have even given ourselves an opportunity to see if we're capable of what we're so afraid of.
You've already decided that it's a losing battle, so you don't even want to fight that battle.
Not even trying to fight. Jonah felt that same way, tried to run, got a second chance, went and prophesied and was probably waiting like, oh, here it comes. And they were like, the Most High has recognized us for our sins. This is terrible. We need to fast and pray and put on sackcloth. For how long? It says, it just says proclaim the fast. But everybody fasted. I'm pretty sure he went like, man, this is a godless city. You know they wicked. That's why the Most High sent Jonah in the first place. You know they was wicked. But they had a zeal of the Most High to be found there. But it needed to be sparked and kindled by the Most High Spirit coming through Jonah. And sure enough, all of the fear that he had and all the things that he was afraid of weren't even his own reality. Let's go over to Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 6. The reason why I say that, sometimes I definitely feel like, not even sometimes, I think that we do that to ourselves a lot. We read about things that are like difficult to give. The woman and her 7 sons in 2 Maccabees, I believe, chapter 6. You read about Eleazar. You read about, valiant men that died, and not always beautifully. You read about in the Maccabees how the priests were abused. Put 2 and 2 together of what that meant. You read about men who, they cut off half their beard and cut off half their girds so that their buttocks was showing. I believe that in 2 Samuel. You read about a lot of things that happened to our people and like a lot of scary instances where people just had to endure a very uncomfortable predicament. We even look at each other and say, ooh, that brother, that's a strong brother. That's a strong sister. Because I don't want to have to go through that. But sometimes that's not even your testimony. That's person's testimony. I believe that the whole thing that too many people strive to be Moses. Too many. You got to be okay with being an honorable man, even if you're not the top dog. You got to be okay with that because there was only one Moses. There's only one Christ, only one King David. I only read about these men one time. Now, their spirit might have been used in different forms, Melchizedek, Yahushai. Oh, okay, I get that. The spirit might get used, but there's only one of that spirit. You have so many people that want to be Moses, but it's also okay to understand the fact that, like, Moses had to choose a government. He said, choose you wise men out of the people, men of good rapport. It's okay if you're not Moses. Be a part of his government. Be a part of the support. Be a part of the righteous building that's being built through him by the Most High. Be okay with being that guy. The scriptures talk about how in the body of Christ there are all these different roles, and one of them that gets overlooked so much is as helps. Sometimes you got to be a help. We supposed to be a rising army. An army is not 100% infantry. You got infantry, you got recon, you got communications, you have snipers and their spotters, you have mortar teams and artillery teams, you have pilots. Guess what? You also have chefs. You know how many wars have been lost because they didn't have supplies and food? Medics? That's huge. You might not be a combat scout. You're a medic. You know how important it is to have a medic on the battlefield? The camera's about to die, Yashan. You know how important it is to have a medic on a battlefield? You know how important it is to communicate so that men don't end up on opposite sides of each other? Who's that out there? I see a gun. Then you see their gun rise, they see your gun rise. 10 minutes of a bloody gunfight just to find out that it was friendly troops. Right. Because there's no communication. It's okay to be the communicator. It's okay to understand that, like, there are normal roles, so to speak, to be played within Israel. It does not have to be that everybody's striving to be this top dog. Strive to be who you are called to be. Maybe you're that top dog. Maybe you're greater than that person, but maybe you're not. And maybe you have a righteous legacy that you lead nonetheless, even though you don't have some huge immortalized name in the scriptures. When you read about Judas Maccabeus, when he died, he had 3,000 men with him, right? You read about the 5 Maccabean brothers, but when Judas died, he had 3,000 men with him. 2,200 got scared and fled. 800 of them stayed with him and died with him. You don't see 800 names in the scriptures, but they have a beautiful legacy. Be okay with being one of those men. I might not get noticed. I might not be seen. I might not get immortalized and have my name plastered everywhere. I might not get pyramids built in my honor, but I can still get the kingdom, and that's enough. That should be enough. Let me put it that way. That'd be my thing. If somebody be like, oh, man, you this, you that, 144, all praises, man. If I am 144, all praises. But I'm okay with just being in the kingdom. I'm good at being in the kingdom. The 144,000 are going to be given a song that only they can learn. I will gladly listen to that song in the kingdom. Man, this is beautiful. I ain't going to be, man, I wanted to be a part of that choir.
Right.
Hey, if I'm a part of it, all praises. This is beautiful. Oh, wow. It's going to be overwhelming. But if I get to listen to it, I'm also going to be overwhelmed because I'll be listening as an immortal, chosen to be there by Yahushai and approved of the Most High, to be a fellow heir into an eternal kingdom. Man. I'm good. I don't need to be. I don't need some special privilege or special place outside of being in the kingdom itself. Too many of our people are not okay with that. You got to be the top dog. You got to be this amazing person, but being in the kingdom, look at how elite you already are. Many, many, many more created than shall ever be saved. And you get to be one of them. And it's like, why can't we be satisfied with that? Mm-hmm. Be satisfied with that. Most High calls you to be holy. You might have been whatever you was. You was a drug dealer. You was a gang member. You killed, whatever. You was all that in the world. Most High calls you to be holy now. You was a baby daddy in the world. You was a baby mama in the world. You sold yourself, you sold drugs, you sold whatever. That's who you were, not who you are. The Most High has called you to be holy now. Put off those things from you. Get rid of those things. You different now. He saw something in you that you might not even see within yourself. And I'm speaking to me as well. I don't want people to think like I just got all this understood, like it's just 100% locked in. I'm understanding this as I'm saying it. Most High called you to be something that you may not understand, but just stay the course. Because that's why he said, look at the generations of old. Whoever called on him and was ashamed or confounded? Who's ever been that? Because even those that died slowly and painfully, they got the kingdom. They're not ashamed or confounded. The woman and the 7 sons, the sacrifice that I think we're all, at least to a certain degree, afraid to have to give, they're waiting on the kingdom. They're sitting under the throne of the Most High with a white robe. Have a rest for a little while I get the rest of them together. When the kingdom gets opened up, you got it. They're not ashamed or confounded. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6.
For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth.
The Most High said, who he loves, he chastens. You know how you see that? Look at all of Israel. We're not the only ones who are in the truth who are going through hell. We was going through hell in the world. You know why? Because you were getting chastened. Whether we know we were a part of this covenant or whether we choose to accept we're a part of this covenant, we were already a part of this covenant. The curses are upon all of Israel, not just those that are deciding to come back into the culture and the truth and abide by the laws. We're all getting chastened because the Most High said he loves all of Israel, but he understands not all of Israel can be saved. It says to chasten, right? So I think about Jonah. Jonah went through hell, right? He was swallowed in the belly of that fish 3 days and 3 nights. And once he got out, he was like, I'm ready to act right. Chasten, because for whom the Lord loves, he chastens. Chasten, to correct by punishment or suffering. Sometimes we put ourselves in a position to where we have to suffer. We go through hell for a long time. And then we finally say, okay, I submit. You know, it's some people, they get put in that chokehold and they get just tap. And it's some you got to put to sleep and they wake up. Or, you know, it's some that they'll let you take them as far as you can go. And then eventually it takes a little longer. All right. Tap. But the Most High, and the crazy part about it is not everybody even survives their chastening. Some feel forsaken by the Most High. They let the shame and the doubt, they let things overcome them. But we are literally corrected by punishment or suffering. It says to prune. It's something such as a work or style of art. The Most High says he's going to prune you as a work or a style of art. He's putting work into you. The scriptures talk about as clay in the potter's hand, so is man in the hand of his maker. Sometimes you cut off pieces of clay. Us being that clay, when you get something cut off, it's probably uncomfortable as hell. It's hell to have that cut off of you. Oh, my goodness. I lost a big piece of me right there. You get shaved down. You get pushed into a certain shape. You get, formed into something greater, something of use. It's uncomfortable. But this is what the Most High, he's saying this is like work. Here's another one. To cause to be more humble or restrained. Subdue. The Most High is going to subdue you. He's going to put you in that choke and you be, all right, I tap. All right. Once you get all twisted up, all right, I give up. I give up. And we know we got the fight in us. Sometimes that's why we make it so much harder on ourselves. I definitely can say I see many instances where I made it harder on myself. We got that spirit of Jacob, right?
Okay.
Jacob fought all night long with that angel. It ain't that we can't go all night, but it's just about eventually we're going to realize we're not in control as we want to be. And I'm saying this to myself as well. We're not as in control as we want to be. We finally have to decide to give in. Causing you to be more humble. Because when you're more humble, you're a lot more compassionate. You're going to be more charitable. You're going to check on people. You're going to remember yourself. You're going to remember the possibilities. You're going to put yourself in people's shoes. You're going to show that love, show that compassion. You're going to give so much more of yourself. And the Most High said that that's necessary if you want to be received. Let's get this last scripture. I think I'm going to end it here. Sirach chapter 14. Actually, they're going to get 2 more, but Sirach 14 is the first one. Sirach chapter 14, and we are going to read verse 2.
This is Sirach 14:2. Blessed is he whose countenance hath not condemned him, and who is not fallen from his hope in the Lord.
It said, blessed is he whose conscience has not condemned him. Let me see, hold on. So your conscience, right, is supposed to be, hold on, I'm sorry, I wanted to pull something up. I might actually just read two portions. It said, blessed is he whose conscience has not condemned him, right? Because just like, you seen Pinocchio, the Jiminy Cricket, uses his conscience. Every time he was about to do something wrong, his conscience would say, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't cross that line. You shouldn't go that far. You shouldn't do, it's really not the right move. And then your conscience warns you for so long, then it turns on you. You know what? You are evil. You are this. You are that. You start to have those thoughts. Then that's when you really battling, because now it's less of a moral compass. Even when you do good, you feel guilt. And there's something called imposter syndrome, right? It said personality traits largely drive imposter syndrome. Those who experience it struggle with self-efficacy, perfectionism, and neuroticism. I want to read what that is because I want to give clarity. It says imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon or imposterism, is a psychological occurrence in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Your conscience has condemned you. You got imposter syndrome. You have a psychological experience to where no matter how hard you go or what you do, you just don't feel satisfied. It's never enough. There's a certain beauty in that, right? Because you're never going to stop. There's a certain beauty in that because you're never going to find your ability to quit. As much as you might want to, as much hell as you go through, as much pain as you're in, as much as you want to dodge and avoid, you're going to always find a way to muster up the strength because you're like, I can't stop. I have not done enough. There's no way. But you doubt. What causes that doubt to come in, what causes that extinguishing of the spirit is sin. When you believe in yourself, this walk is easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. That's not true. Let me rephrase. Hold on. Wait a minute. Because let me not, but what I mean by that is it's easier. When you don't doubt yourself and you feel 100% confident in everything that you do, you feel like you're untouchable, you have heroic immunity, it's fairly easy. It's not until you start to make mistakes, it's not until you start to realize your imperfections, it's not until you start to see that you aren't quite everything that you were hoping that you were or that you thought you were, that you start to have those doubts. And you start to have that imposter syndrome. You feel like you can't do enough. You feel like it's only a matter of time before you're exposed, even though you might have all the faith in the world. That's why he said, you blessed if your conscience hasn't condemned you. The scriptures are saying it. Blessed is he, and who is not fallen from his hope in the Lord, because that's what it ultimately means. You feel like you're past the point of saving. Most High ain't coming to get me. Why would he? Most High is not going to save me. Why would he? Christ gave his blood. I'm not worthy of it. You have all these thoughts that constantly run through your mind, and you feel so unworthy of so much that you continue to experience, and it just slowly eats at you. But you got to find a way to keep going. You see many instances of men in the scriptures who were chosen for great things that had doubts, that had imperfections. You see Gideon. He asked for signs, I believe 3 days in a row. He said, he took some fleece, sat it by the door. He said, let dew be around it, then let dew be on it, then let them both be dry or both be wet. I can't remember. He needed signs. He needed reassurance. He needed a little something to keep him going, but he kept going. And he delivered Israel he let the Lord deliver Israel by his hand. You see so many instances of our forefathers having doubts or having difficulties to overcome what it was that they were experiencing, but you also see a lot of perseverance. Actually 2 more scriptures. My bad. We started a little bit late, so I'm going to take advantage of this. 2nd Ezra, chapter 2 and verse 35. We're going to read 35 through 37.
Second Ezra chapter 2 and verse.
I'm sorry. It's actually chapter 1, verse 35. Yeah, 1 and 35.
Second Ezra's 1 and verse 35. Your houses I will give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me yet shall believe me, to whom I have shewed no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them.
So this is what the Most High was telling our forefathers. He said, all the things that y'all have, he said that they despise his commandment. He said, your houses, I'm going to give it to somebody they ain't heard of me, but they going to believe. He said, I ain't shown them no signs. It's crazy because as much as we criticize ourselves or we have a lack of compassion for our own weaknesses, our forefathers saw so much more than what we saw and still had these weaknesses. They saw Moses part the Red Sea. They saw the miracles. They saw the pillar of fire. They went up into the land, and when the spies came back and said that there are giants and there are strong men, they were like, oh, there's no way we can survive. Right. You serve a God that just parted an entire ocean, miles deep and miles long, and then closed the ocean at will when your enemies were in it to drown them. You don't think he can give y'all a victory on land? There were battles where there was no one of Israel that fell. And there were battles where there were those that fell, but it was only those who were in sin. Most High said, man, they haven't even seen the signs. We haven't seen the sea part. We haven't seen the sun go dark for a day and then come back. We haven't seen frogs rise out of the oceans. We, at best, I would say, have seen some chariots. I don't think that anybody, at least no one that I know, have seen to me. I don't know. Jace can tell me if they've seen, like, they woke up one morning and was seeing these things, or, we get dreams and we see chariots. Our forefathers saw that and some, and still had doubt, and still had a lack of faith, and still had issues. We trying to get it together with so much more faith, and we haven't seen these things. We don't have the Most High speaking in our ears saying, yeah, this is the guy. Follow that man. That's a prophet right there. We have to have the faith within ourselves to say that we're really servants and sons of the Most High. And then also exuberate that to people we're trying to teach and to trying to hope to instill faith in them as well. Read on.
They have seen no prophets, yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them.
We don't see men who are hearing from the Most High directly. Go to this city, go to this corner, go to this people and say this. We don't have that. We got brothers that come and study amongst ourselves and themselves to be able to go and prophesy, knowing in part and prophesying in part. Hoping to be one of the ones to be saved, hoping to be one of the ones to escape Egypt. So we ain't seen prophets, but we call our sins into remembrance. Go ahead. Oh, was that 37?
Nope.
Go ahead.
I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness, and though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit, they believe the thing that I say.
That's us.
Yes, we are.
That's us. We don't have the miracles our forefathers seen. We're not even in the land. Even though they were in Egypt, they could walk. I think it's like maybe a little over a week, like 9 days I've seen on Google Maps that you can walk from Egypt to Israel. You're talking about less than 2 weeks, less than 10 days to walk. They were that close to the actual land. Yeah, we can get on a plane and be there probably in a day and a half, but we're not even, we're across an ocean from our homeland, way out of where we're supposed to be. So many things that influence us and affect us. You feel the weight. Excuse me. You feel the weight. We went to Tabernacles and Jakes could just feel the release of pressure off of our spirits. It was different. It was different from the city. Everything's fast-paced, loud, aggressive, gunshots, sirens, helicopters, prosecutions, drugs, gangbanging, stealing, killing. All of that is right here on our streets. It'd be right up the block.
We're right out the door.
Right out the door. We go to Tabernacles, and for just a little bit, you'd be like, man, this wilderness is great. Everything's quiet. Everything is peaceful. Everything is so different. It's totally different. Our forefathers were in the land. They were in the wilderness, and there's no disrespect to them. Hopefully they find mercy as well. I'm not sitting up here as if we're better than them, but we have to understand. That's why I said, whatever you are in the world, that's what you are in the world. You've been called to be one of these people. You ain't seen prophets the way that our forefathers saw prophets. You haven't seen miracles the way that they saw miracles. You haven't seen signs the way that they saw signs. But you're still choosing to strive. You're still choosing to fight. You're still choosing to endure. That's special. That's something to hold on to. That's something to not let anything in this world take that from you. And I know, Lord knows I know that it's hard. But my hope is to give all of us a little bit more faith, a little bit more of that fire to keep going. I think I'm going to end it there. I think I'm going to end it on that note.
Yep.
You have anything you want to bring out?
No.
All praise to the Most High. I hope this was edifying, Israel. Again, like I said, I make lessons also with myself in mind. Also understanding, like, putting that out there, like the things that, we're not above the things that all of us struggle with. We're not above the things that our forefathers struggle with. We're not above these moments that even from Yahushua to the least of us are going to have and have had. But we all need to try. We all need to, I ain't gonna say try. We need to try to stick together to be able to get through it together, to exonerate one another, to keep each other going, and to ultimately, hopefully, all walk into the kingdom, one with another. So please continue to.
No, I was just going to say, you don't have to do this alone. Find a righteous body. If reach out to us if you don't have a body to gather with and you're looking for someone. We're here. Reply at truenation.org. Send us a message.
Absolutely. As a beautiful, yes, it is much easier with a body. Even if you have an individual, introverted type of mentality, it's always something that can kind of pull you out. And the scriptures say, idle time creates wickedness. It's really not good. The Most High said it with Adam. It's not good for man to be alone. Whether that's with a wife or a family, or whether that's with a body in the meantime, it's really not good for us to be alone, especially not long term. So with that, Israel, I hope this was edifying. I hope that it gave hope and gave strength to those that may have been in need. I hope that it puts things into perspective to where we find the strength to keep going. And I hope that to see all of us in the kingdom, Most High willing, someday. Shalom.
Shalom.